Namaste and welcome to Inspiring Women, produced by Today's Youth Asia. Inspiring Women is an attempt to bring successful women and inspiring stories on women leadership from around the world. My name is Deepika and today we have with us Ms. Parvati Mazumdar. Ms. Parvati Mazumdar is an education consultant for schools in the areas of curriculum design, and she is also the member of Education Committee on the board of Lincoln School, Kathmanduy. She holds a master's degree in Sociology from Puna University, India, and she also holds a master's degree in Education from the Teachers College, Columbia University, New York. Today we are going to talk about how women have evolved into becoming mainstream leaders and change makers in the modern world.
On what factors do you scale the independence of women in this era?
Well, independence is a word which has to be understood clearly and obviously understood by the women themselves. I think for my generation growing up, independence was the ability to get the same facilities as my brother, who was the male counterpart. So independence to have choices once one finished schooling. So I think independence ties to the fact that one is able to make one's decision oneself, with of course good advice from parents when you're growing up. But when you're an adult, the fact that you have the means, that is the faculty, the power to be able to make these decisions, supported by society and culture. Of course, society is not an abstract term, but society means your family first and foremost, and then your group of friends, and then the social institutions, your country, the values and ideas that you have, support you in making a choice for yourself about how you want to lead your life. So in that respect, I think women have come a long way in becoming independent. Speaking for myself, I belong to a middle-class family from India. I was able to get the best education at par with my brother. I was able to sit for the civil services exams, in which I qualified. It's one of the toughest exams. I was able to qualify that. It's one of the most prized and sought-after jobs in India. I was able to do that. I was able to choose my own husband, somebody who's not from my community. So I was given the freedom to choose from outside my community, and freedom to have children or not have children. Yes, so pretty much if I take myself as an example, I think maybe large sections of society have become quite independent today as compared to before.
Do you think it's only possible to have either a personal or a professional life?
No, I don't think it has to be an either or. I think it's a fine balancing act. It's not as easy as some people make it out to be, that women can have it all. You see, so it's not such a big change, because especially in our part of the world, and if you're looking at South Asia, women still have many traditional roles which they are happy to follow. It's not that it's just forced on them. They're happy to be part of the family as wives, as mothers. At the same time, a certain section, like I said, following from the first question, that not everybody has those opportunities that I'm talking about, but those who have want to follow a career. So yes, it's possible to have both. It takes a huge amount of hard work on the part of the woman, because I don't think women get any concessions if they are in the work field. In fact, sometimes they're made to feel bad if they have to take time off for their other personal responsibilities. So it's a huge amount of hard work for women. So at the same time, while getting, I find it a little funny, because we say that we want to be modern, and yet sometimes we look back at the past and think, oh, our mothers had it better because they didn't have to work and look after the home. But we wanted that for ourselves. It's not easy. It's possible to do. It comes with a lot of support from your friends, family, work sphere. So in the work sphere too, in the professional sphere, the corporate sector, the government sector has to recognize that women need support, and it's possible.
What are your views on the education system in this part of the world?
You know, I have received most of my education in this part of the world, in India. I did my undergraduate and postgraduate degrees in India from excellent government universities. So I think I am confident that the education that we receive in this part of the world is of quite a good quality. Again, there are two sectors of education. There's the private sector and the government sector. I know I can speak with confidence for India that although we have a very large infrastructure, and this is my field, education, we have a large infrastructure in terms of government and municipal schools and colleges. The quality of education that's delivered in these schools leads a lot to be improved. It leaves a lot to be improved. So, if you separate the private and the public, the primary education of the public sector can be improved, especially with respect to India. And I think it's true of a lot of the other countries of South Asia. I think our university level education is quite good. I did my second master's in education from Columbia University in New York, which is an Ivy League. And it's one of the best experiences of my life that I've had, going back as a mature student. I think we have our strengths, but we can definitely improve. We can learn a lot from the systems in the West in terms of liberal arts, in terms of attitude to education, in terms of the spirit of inquiry. So hopefully we should be going that way, improving what we have and being able to draw on the strengths of what exists in other parts of the world.
How can the women of your generation play a role in bringing out changes in the society?
It's very important for us, women of my generation, to allow then women, since we are talking about women in our immediate families and lives, right? So I would be talking about, let's say, the women I come into contact with. First, we always start from family, so go from the local to the global. Let's say my daughter. I have a daughter. She's a very bright, spirited young woman. She's only 15. So yes, I think as mothers, we need to give our daughters independence, trust in their decisions, support them in the decisions we think will be good for them, but strongly advise them in the decisions we think will not be good for them, right? So as mothers, we play a very important role. Secondly, as professionals, for example, I am an educationist, I am a teacher, I have been a principal. So yes, to be able to go into my class and allow the girls in my class to speak equally, giving them as much of importance, as much of speaking time in my classroom as the boys. Because usually in the class, the girls are a little timid, they are a little shy, they lack confidence, they feel, maybe what I'm saying is not good enough. The boys are smarter because our society is male-oriented, yes. So as a professional, whether it's in media, whether it's in banking, whether it's in any field, one should go ahead and support other women professionals. Going back to the earlier question, if they have babies, they have to go back early. Maybe as a woman, we can have more empathy for them. Instead of saying, never trust a woman, she's going to go home, let's not employ a woman, As a woman, we understand other women's problems and issues and be supportive of them. Yes. So I think women of my generation who are now mothers of young women also, women of your generation who are role models for your colleagues and younger sisters, we have a huge role to play in bringing about a difference in the way we are in the world, the way we think, the way we act. Huge difference.
In this world of today, people have been zooming to the future, and in some way or the other, everyone has been losing in touch with their tradition, the culture that we have. How do you think we can preserve this culture and tradition that we have?
All right. So you're right, because as a sociologist and as an educator, I think culture is what defines us, right? Like, you want to know how to do puja. You want to know how we can, keep wearing our traditional dress like saris. And often we've moved ahead so fast that a lot of societies, their traditional clothes have just died out because the younger generation doesn't find it convenient. I'm glad to say that at least in our part of the world, it's living, and it's something that we've carried for thousands of years. For example, if you look in the history, in the historical dramas or novels or real history, sari has been worn for thousands of years, and young women still wear the sari. So yes, we do want to preserve our culture and tradition. How can we preserve it? I think a lot of it comes through education again, both formal, in a formal setting like schools and at homes. And I think there again, women have a role to play, because usually the woman also teaches the men in the family, the sons. And I think also in schools, my teaching subjects are humanities, so social studies, to formally also acquaint the students with their culture from their part of the world and the global culture. Because, culture must be understood by appreciating that there are different types of cultures. Because otherwise you have the tendency of encouraging, aggressive nationalism, like my culture is the best because that's the only culture I know, So to move out of that very obscurantist traditionalism, the traditionalism that takes you backward, it's important in schools, in the curriculum, to teach children about their own cultures, and also to tell them about certain parts of their culture which perhaps does not serve us very well. For example, the roles of women. Earlier, women were mainly confined to the domestic role. That was also part of our culture in this part of the world. So it's important to teach formally that those traditional cultural roles are changing, that men and women must help each other even at home and outside. It's not just the woman should go outside and the man should not come home and help at home. So we have to change our cultural roles while at the same time keeping.
In 2008 Constitution Assembly, the 33% of quota was given to women. Is it good to pass the women quota?
I think that's a very deep question, because the objective of having quota, if one looks at that, is to have women representatives in the parliament, which is the highest decision-making body. And we thought that making decisions is a sign of independence, and that's how women can get ahead. So yes, if you understand the idea, I think having quota at decision-making bodies is good. And it's been followed in many countries of the world where women really need to come forward. And they have traditionally not been able to receive equal education. So quotas in parliaments are good. But if it's quotas everywhere, just because women are, considered the weaker gender and they need to be pushed ahead, then perhaps we have to take a long, hard look at it, because that can backfire. I can tell you that when I was taking the civil services exams, and it's over a year long written and then an interview. In the final interview, they had asked me this particular question: do you think there should be reservation for women in the civil services? Now, in the civil services in India, we have reservation for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. That is the earlier, the weaker sections. There is no reservation for women in the civil services.
How much change have you seen in the field of women empowerment? Could you like to share your personal experience?
Yeah, well, I'll just give you a statistic. First of all, I think there have been very positive movements in this field. And there's a lot of focus on educating the girl child in our part of the world. In India, in the 2011 census, which is the most recent, it's this year, the education of women increased by 11%. So now, from 53, the literacy rate for women, that is women who can read and write after a certain age, I think it's 7 or then 15, is 65%. and it's quite a good number. So yeah, I would be quite optimistic and say it's improved, but there's long road ahead, because there's large areas of our population still, which is mainly in the rural areas where our facilities for education and such don't go, where girls just don't go to school, and schools are not made convenient for girls to go to. Either they're very far away, or there are not enough female teachers. And in our part of the world, in India and Nepal, we still are very gender sensitive. Families would hesitate to send girls to school if the resources were less, because we are, in our part of the world, we are male dominant. So they would send boys, they would prefer to send boys. And even if they had enough means, if our cultural values were not taken into mind, and you had schools which were convenient, for in India, for example, if there's a common toilet in schools for boys and girls, I don't think parents would be comfortable doing that. Or if there were not enough male teachers, I don't think parents would be comfortable. So even though we've made huge strides, the very fact that all of us women are sitting here and talking about these things so openly is a symbol that yes, we can think about it and talk about it. But there are large parts of our population which need more help and more support.
You've traveled to various places and you've had an experience to firsthand have an experience in different cultures and have a cross-cultural relationship and know various people of different religions. How has your travel experience been like, and how much important do you think cross-cultural relationship is in one's life?
That's perhaps one of the foundations of my personal belief as a teacher, as a professional in education. I have a poster which I always put up in my classroom or in my office. It's called the Golden Rule, and that's the poster which is there in the United Nations building also. So it's this beautiful picture of people of different races and religions and colors. So you could imagine them to belong to different countries with different religions. And the Golden Rule says, do unto others what you would have them do unto you. It's very formal language. And I'll have to translate it to my children who I've taught in elementary school. It's basically just treat others the way you want to be treated yourself. And there's always this big controversy when people talk about national policies, that some policies are Western and some policies are Eastern. The West has a different translation of human rights. They understand culture differently from that of the East. I don't belong to that school, because I really feel there's a universal culture. And that universal culture is summarized in the Golden Rule. I think every human being, irrespective of the color they are, of the religion they follow, just wants to be treated nicely, with respect and with dignity. And I don't think it's difficult for any human being to not behave in that fashion with another human being. A lot of our conflicts between religions, between countries, between races, is because there is miscommunication and misunderstanding.
Most women are reluctant to take education as a career. What inspired you to take education as a career?
I wanted to be in the civil services, and I was a civil servant. I trained and worked for a couple of years as a civil servant in India. But I think you may take the teacher, a person may not be a teacher, but sometimes you can't take the teacher out of the person. Because my father was a doctor, he was a medical professional and very well qualified. So he was an MD, and then he went on to do his PhD in medicine. But he also taught at a medical college, so he was a professor of medicine. So my mother, she started her life as a homemaker. She was brilliant inspiration for us, because she did such a good job of being a mother and being a supportive mother, allowing me to make my independent choices. But later on, when we were grown up and she thought that she had enough time on her hands, she became a teacher. And she used to always tell me that it's a profession where you have this huge area of influence, which perhaps no other profession in the world has. Because for the longest part of a young person's day, they are in your hands. And when I accompanied my husband after we were married on his jobs and postings, I could not continue with my civil services career, which is an extremely prestigious career. So I had to make a decision, and I decided that we would stick together as a family unit. And I would perhaps try to engage in another profession, which I found intellectually stimulating. Now, teaching is one profession that you can do in any part of the world. And I, therefore, decided if I have to be a teacher, I have to respect the profession of being a teacher, because I think a lot of the problem with education in our part of the world is we don't respect our teachers enough.
What are your future plans, and where have you traveled in Nepal, and what do you think what Nepal is?
Well, I've been here for a year, and I've really enjoyed being here. My name is Parvati, and you know, Parvati has a special significance because here, this is the home of Pashupati. So I've really been made to feel very welcome. Although my home is West Bengal in India, I had never visited Nepal until last year when I came with my husband, and now I'm here with my family. And I intend to be in Nepal at least for another couple of years. It's a beautiful country. I think you've been blessed with how much of natural beauty there is here. And I've really not had much time to travel a lot, because it takes some time to settle down in a new place and, you know, find your feet, put your children to school. But I've been to Pokhara, and of course Dhulikhel and Nagarkot are just an hour away, so I often escape to Dhulikhel and Nagarkot and get this beautiful sight of the Himalayas. So I'm very, very happy to be here. My future plans for being in Nepal is that in all my earlier postings, which have been in China and New York and Cairo and Bangladesh, I've always tried to work full-time in a school, which I've enjoyed immensely because of all the cross-cultural. But here in Nepal, I think I would like to spread my area of work wider than just being in one school. And I have been consulting schools in how to plan curriculum, how to deliver curriculum. So I've been having teacher workshops. My own children go to Lincoln School, so I am on the education committee of the board at Lincoln School. And I've advised some other schools here. And I keep getting invitations to visit more schools. So I'm looking forward to do that and engage with the Nepali society and professionally as much as I can.
Whom do you consider as the most influential person in your life?
I'll have to say conventional terms perhaps. My mom, because she was a homemaker, and yet after a certain point in her life, she decided that she had to go back and contribute to society, and she went back and got a degree in education. And as women, we have to constantly reinvent ourselves, because I have had to do that many times in my life. I've had to give up my job as a civil servant. I took some time off being a mother to small kids. I went back to train myself for another career. I am pursuing that career. So I think I saw my mother doing that with great degree of energy and commitment. And she managed all her fronts. My father was extremely supportive. He encouraged her to do it. So therefore, I would also add my father to that. But then as I was discussing with you before this, there's not just one person. There are all those countless women who go about living extremely hard lives, you know, not necessarily an iconic leader, but extremely hard lives from day to day, supporting their family. They're all heroes or heroines.
Thank you, Ms. Mazumdar, for being with us today and sharing your insightful thoughts and ideas. Thank you for watching us. We look forward to your feedback. Our email address is youthtya@gmail.com. We'll be back next week at the same time. Have a nice week. Namaste.